and I was getting kind of frustrated with it, and he suggested that I do a mindfulness scan, and so I did, and it really helped, and I got the rhythm.
Nice. So it was helpful.
And then I did it with Natalie and Meg in chamber music, and it just like gave us a minute just like reassess, and it was very helpful.
Very cool. Very cool. Looks like who else did it? I think Meg. Did you want to talk about what happened?
I did it in the chamber thing with Natalie and Lila.
Cool. And it was helpful?
Very helpful.
Yeah. Great. Emily, what was your experience like?
So I did it when I was practicing. I have a big piece that I'm doing, Liszt Mephisto Waltz, and so I've been having trouble like with tension throughout just because it's so long. And so I kind of just like stopped between sections and like assessed my tension and like noticed where I needed to relax. And so I like wrote that in my music so that when I'm playing through it, it's easier for me to like think about that constantly so I don't get to the end and I'm like really tense and it hurts.
Cool. So you actually marked your music, sort of like used it as an assessment. That's really cool. I've never heard of anyone saying that before. Thank you, Emily. I have a new thing to add to my book now. This is cool. And then you can mark it on your part. I'm always stealing ideas from people I teach stuff to. It's fantastic. And I think, was it Kaylin? Did you try as well? You tried another one of those?
Yeah, yesterday when I was practicing solo bop, and I used it to like basically widen, like pay attention to like certain details of like the sound around me. And then when I was doing that, I realized when I was practicing bop, like it's already really hard to like notice like the little bits of like phrasing in bop, but I realized it was a lot easier to pick up on what I was doing and like how to like play around with that.
Fantastic. All right. So you have heard from your peers. There's expert testimony now saying this is a really good thing to try. And it isn't very hard to do at all, is it? Right? It's just kind of like a little reminder like, okay, yeah, I've got to do this really simple thing. I scan it and I try. I actually did it myself yesterday. I'm a jazz bassist as well as a classical bassist. Actually, I was originally a jazz bassist. That's how I started and later added a bow and became a classical musician. But I did it yesterday trying to learn some new tunes, some new songs. And because I don't practice a lot anymore because I've got a kid and 50,000 jobs and, you know, and 15 minutes has to be really, really, really good. And sometimes 15 minutes on a bass, if you haven't played for 3 or 4 days, can hurt. Because the instrument is so big. So I tried it yesterday just to see, I don't do this very often. And it was so helpful for me as well. So I'm glad you got that. Okay, so reviewing, you've got 3 exercises so far that you've learned. One is the 4-7-8 for when you're nervous, right? Very, very simple grounding exercise. When you're lacking some concentration, you can do the bring the mind home. And that's really easy. You just got to give your mind an object. Just give it something to connect to that's physical. That's the one that people practice the least because it seems really esoteric, but it really isn't. It doesn't have to be. It's just basically telling your mind, pay attention to this specific thing as I play, right? And then yesterday you saw, and the mindful body scan is a really, really powerful tool. So I'm going to extend. Oh, Jeff, go ahead.
Well, Meg, I wonder if we could share out about the monkey mind yesterday.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
For us to share out about that? Do you want to tell it?
Sure. So yesterday when I was doing some solution work, I kept thinking about the flowers in the room. So then when Jeff came back, he asked like, what were we thinking about? And I said I was kind of thinking about the flowers. And then he said, then why don't you play for the flowers? And that made my sound sweeter.
Oh, that's really interesting. So we took what our mind was already attracted to and used it as a source to make music. That's a really wonderful, creative way of using our attention, right? So, and by the way, that fits right with mindfulness, which is non-judgment, right? We turn our attention, instead of judging it, we realize, hey, it might be normal right now for us to pay attention to flowers. So instead of saying, oh, that's bad or that's negative, can I use those flowers, right? There was this really interesting teacher who died about 20 years ago. His name was Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche. And he was a teacher that taught very much about this idea of using your mind as a tool, right? So anything was a tool. Anything that you experience could be a tool to make music or to do whatever it is that you needed. And so, you know, instead of fighting our experiences, I love that. Jeff, that's a really great way of shifting a distraction into something useful at that moment, right? That's really fantastic. Cool. Stealing that one too. All sorts of good stuff. All right. So I'm going to show you a new technique today called mindful stop. And mindful stop is a little bit of an extension of the body scan, but it gets into some other things. It has a slightly different purpose. It also interrupts a negative pattern or distracting pattern, but it does it in a different way. And it also deals very much with what is it that you want to get out of every moment, right? So what is it that I want to do? When I start and practice, if you look at all of the expert musicians that you will talk to, they tell you that when they start to practice something, they have a goal in mind. They don't just start practicing, right? Maybe for a little while just to get our bodies and our minds warmed up. We might just play or doodle a little bit. But there's always got to be a goal. There has to be a thing that we're going for. But sometimes our goals go out the window with that monkey mind, right? They just kind of go and we can't find them anymore. The monkey's taking the apple and they're gone. So mindful stop is a really good way of checking in with yourself to figure out if your goals are consistent with your state of mind. Are my goals consistent with my state of mind? It's a kind of a cool technique. But I'm going to show you, I'm going to share my screen again here. And hopefully today it'll work better than last time. Okay. Let me show you. You've got a couple things before we try our exercise. First of all, my favorite practitioner of the mindful stop is Yoda. Just want to point that out right away. How many of you have seen some of the Star Wars movies? Any Star Wars fans? Great. All right, so let's look at what happens when Anakin and Yoda have an interaction here, right? Because this is actually a mindful stop. So Yoda said, Yoda looks at little Anakin and says, "How feel you?" I can't do my Yoda voice this morning. It's not working. It's too early. And Anakin says, "Cold, sir." So Anakin is telling Yoda, "I feel cold. I'm connecting." This is weird, but he's actually doing mindfulness, saying, "I'm feeling cold. I feel coldness in my body." And Yoda said, "Afraid are you?" Oh, so Yoda already understands that physical sensations relate to what? Emotions and moods. They're not separate. Remember yesterday? Where do you love someone? Where do you feel fear and anger? So cold for Anakin is afraid, right? It could be afraid. And Yoda sort of figures this out. And then Yoda says, Anakin says, "No, I'm not afraid. I don't feel fear." And Yoda says, "See through you, we can." Right? And then Mace Windu says, "Be mindful of your feelings." Ah, look, there's mindfulness in Star Wars. And Ki-Adi Mundi says, "Your thoughts dwell on your mother." So he's saying, not only are you checking with your body, you're checking with your feelings, and you're checking with your thoughts, right? Anakin says, "I miss her," right? "Oh yeah, I miss my mom." Yoda says, "Afraid to lose her, I think." So he's kind of figuring out so why are you afraid exactly? What's going on here? What story are you telling yourself about this, right? And Anakin's like, what does this have to do with anything? I'm a Jedi master, right? And of course, Yoda, being the ever wise mindfulness teacher that he is, Zen master, says, "Everything, right? Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. I sense much fear in you," right? So it's kind of a cute little section. Well, it's not cute. I think it's actually pretty profound, right? Yoda is teaching this young Jedi, and many of us, I always like to think of like music as when you're a musician, you're a Jedi, right? You're doing really unbelievable things with your mind and your body that affect other people, right? Except you're doing it with musical sounds. And in this case, he's teaching this young Jedi that he has to be aware of his feelings and emotions, or they might lead him to the wrong path, right? And so sometimes in music, it's very similar. We have an idea of what we want to do. Anakin just misses his mom. That's normal. And he wants to do, he's probably thinking, how can I see my mom again? How can I? And Yoda reminds him, it's okay to miss your mom, but be careful, because when you're not aware of what's going on, that can lead to fear, and fear can lead to a lot of really negative things, right? And that happens to us in music too. So I'll give you an example. I come in and I really want to practice. I want to get 10 measures of this concerto to be better. But I come in and I'm a little upset about what happened 3 minutes ago because maybe somebody gave me some bad news. So I come in and I'm not aware that I'm upset. And so I start to practice and I'm already kind of like, why am I upset? And then I get upset, I'm feeling upset in my body, and it has really nothing to do with the music, but now it's affecting the music. So I say, I must be upset because I'm not doing this very well. And then you think, well, I'm not doing this very well because I'm just not practicing hard enough. And then you go, I'm not practicing hard enough because I'm just a bad person. Then you say, I'm a bad person. And then you can just see how your mind can just spin out of control if you're not careful. By the way, what was the actual problem? You just came into a room with what? You just had a bad day. And a bad day is a pretty normal thing, right? So how do we work with that? All right, so I'm going to show you a little video. Actually, I'm going to go to stop for a second. We're going to teach you, but this is a really good video of what happens during stop, a sort of stop mindfulness task. And I have to warn you, it does use one, not bad word, but it does use one questionable word that I might, if I were talking to my daughter who's 7, say, don't use that word, but it's not a bad word. It's just a slightly more adult word. I hope everybody's okay with that. And if not, I'll do this when it's coming, okay? I'll make you cover your ears. All right, let me switch the screen here. I think you'll enjoy this. Stop share, new share. Let's do, there we go, Happify. Okay, can you see the actual screen this time? Oh, cool. All right, here we go. It says, mindfulness is a superpower. Can you hear it?
You may have heard this word mindfulness. It's become something of a buzz phrase of late. I'm going to give you one simple, serviceable definition, which is this. Mindfulness is the ability to know what's happening in your head at any given moment without getting carried away by it. Imagine how useful this could be. Just as an example, driving down the road and somebody cuts you off in traffic. How do you normally react? I think most of us, we normally react by having a thought, which is, I'm pissed. And then what happens next? You immediately, habitually, reflexively inhabit that thought. You actually become pissed. There's no buffer between the stimulus and your reaction. With just a little bit of mindfulness, in that same situation, you might notice my chest is buzzing, my ears are turning red, I'm having a starburst of self-righteous thoughts, I'm getting angry. But you don't necessarily have to act on it and chase that person down the road, screaming at them with your kids in the back of the car thinking you've gone nuts. Now, you might be thinking, don't I need to get angry sometimes? Aren't I justified? I would say yes, but probably not as much as you think. The proposition here is not that you should be rendered by mindfulness into some lifeless, non-judgmental blob. The proposition is that you should learn how to respond wisely to things that happen to you rather than just reacting blindly. And that, my friends, is a superpower. How do you get it? The way to get it is through meditation. I believe that meditation and mindfulness are the next big public health revolution. In the 1940s, if you told somebody you were going running, they would have said, who's chasing you? But then what happened next? The scientists swooped in, they showed that physical exercise is really good for you, and now all of us do it, and if we don't, we feel guilty about it. And that's where I think we're headed with mindfulness and meditation. It's going to join the pantheon of no-brainers like brushing your teeth, eating well, and taking the meds your doctor prescribed for you. Let me just close by saying, mindfulness is not going to solve all of your problems. It's not going to render your life a nonstop parade of unicorns and rainbows. Nonetheless, this is a superpower and one that is accessible by you immediately.
All right. I really like that. Let's stop for a second. That's kind of a cute video to explain what's going on, really basically, right? And you saw that. I don't know what that is, if it's a badger or a hedgehog. I don't know what it is. But whatever that little creature was, you notice as soon as it got mad, what happened? He noticed his heart beating, his ears were getting all red, right? And we've all, have you ever experienced that where you just get like upset and then you get all these self-righteous thoughts, right? Who's attacking me? Who's right? And when we bring that into our musical experiences, that can be really, really hard to diffuse. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you the technique, and then we're going to try it with playing something and see how it works. So let me share my desktop again. Here we go. Okay, everyone can see that? Let's Okay. So the first part, this is called mindful stop, and it's easy to remember because all of the instructions start with a letter S, T, O, or P. S, T, O, P, stop. Okay. And basically, here's the way that I describe it. If you're going into a room and you're going to start to do any activity at all, stop. Just stop for a minute. Just basically stopping your physical body and saying, okay, I need to focus on what's going on right now, is one of the most useful things you can do. Why is that? Because often we're running on what? On autopilot, right? A lot of times when I walk into a room, I might be checking my phone before I come in. I'm checking my phone and then I walk in and people are talking to me and then I pick up my instrument and then there's no room to actually just do what? Stop for a minute, right? So this interrupts the pattern, the habitual pattern, very simple, right? And then we move to taking 3 deep breaths into the belly, right? So I stop, I'm about to start practice and I just 3 deep breaths. And remember what we learned about breathing, right? If we breathe out slower than we breathe in, we tend to relax that sympathetic nervous system, right? Just kind of slows down, okay? Then we observe. So first thing I do, and let's do this together. And if you have a sheet of paper, this is actually really helpful. Or you can just kind of do it in your head. I like to do it with a sheet of paper sometimes. So now that I've stopped and I've taken 3 deep breaths, what does my body feel like? So I might write something like tense, relaxed, shoulder pain, hungry. So just check your body. How does it feel? And you can label it in your head or you could write it down. Now check in on your mood. What mood are you feeling? Are you happy, stressed, bored, anxious, excited? Just kind of notice what your mood is without changing it. Foggy. And here's an interesting one. Notice what your thoughts are doing right now. So our thoughts tend to tell stories about what's happening. Your mind is always telling you a story about what's happening in any situation. So a story could be, why is this guy asking me to figure out what my story is? My story is you're asking me to figure out a story. Another story can be is, what are we doing? This is weird. This is cool. Am I going to be a Jedi? When do we get to the good stuff? All right. What is your thought? What are your thoughts telling you? Okay. Can anyone notice your thoughts? How many of you notice that you have kind of an inner talker? A person that's kind of talking in your head, right? Isn't that weird? We always tell people, what are you hearing voices in your head? As though we don't all hear voices in our head. We're always hearing our own inner narrative, right? It's just kind of a normal way that human beings communicate with themselves. Okay, cool. What does this all matter? So now, what happened to the last slide? Oh, I lost my last slide. Okay, so usually the last one is proceed with intention, right? So the question is, ask yourself, what am I going to do right now? And does my posture, my mood, and my story support what I'm going to do? Does my posture, my mood, and my story support what I'm going to do? So we call it proceed with intention. That's the P, proceed with intention. So if my intention is to have a good practice session, is my body supporting that? Can I just notice my body? Oh, no, you know what? No, my posture and my body don't feel right. Let me settle down. How's my mood right now? Ooh, I'm feeling a little angry. Okay, well, maybe I can use that anger as fuel to have a good practice session, just kind of as raw energy instead of being angry at something. Then I might say, what are my thoughts telling me? Are my thoughts telling me this is a bad practice session or I'm having a bad day? And again, the question here is not, is that true or not? Is it useful? So if I'm going to practice something and my thoughts say, I can't make this work, I'm not going to be able to get this. Is that a useful thought? Is that going to help you practice better? What do you think? No, right? Is it a normal thought? Yeah, it's a normal thought, but it might not be useful in that moment, right? It might not be useful. So what we can do is say, what might be a more useful thought? So a useful thought might be, I'm a little tired right now, but I think with some focus, I can get through this practice session pretty well. Or Yeah, boy, I just got into a fight with my friend before I came in here, and I'm pretty angry about that, and that's okay. But you know what? Right now, I'm going to use that anger to use it as fuel, as energy for this practice session. Not to practice angry, but just sort of the raw experience of like energy when I feel angry, right? Or I can say something like, "Yeah, that's bothering me, but I can deal with that later, and right now I can do this instead," right? So it checks in with what? Three things. It checks in with your thoughts, with your mood, and your feelings. Okay. All right. So I want everyone, we've got just 4 minutes here. Okay. This is going to be a little harder. Can you find a piece of music that really challenges you? And I want you to find a piece of music and the section in that piece that you're just, you don't want to play because you're like, oh, right? Just that one part of the piece is just absolutely terrifying to you. Oh, I can think of many that I'm working on right now. Okay, so bring it in front of you. Look at maybe a few measures of that section of the piece. Okay, and I want you to set a goal in your head. Just say, I would like to play this section with better articulations, or I would like to play this section with a better tone, or whatever it is. Just set yourself a very easy musical goal. Everybody got a musical goal? Okay, cool. Remember that. And now stop. Take 3 deep breaths. Now observe your body. Observe your mood. Observe your thoughts. Accept them all. Don't worry. They just are what they are. Just be curious. Now ask yourself, based upon my goal, do I have the posture I need to accomplish my goal? And if not, change it. Am I in the right mood to accomplish my goal? And if not, can you generate a different mood, or let go of that mood, or use that mood to help you instead of hinder you? And then finally, ask yourself, am I having useful thoughts? And if not, give yourself a useful thought that will help you accomplish your goal. Okay, now play, keeping your original goal in mind through the section that you chose. Go ahead and do that on your own. All right. Okay, quick questions. So how many of you noticed that just trying to play something that is hard made your posture weird? Did anybody notice that when they started? Right? Oh, your posture. Okay, cool. How many of you noticed that you get in a particular mood when you are about to approach a piece? Yeah, Julia say, yeah. Okay, some of you, good. How many of you had a very interesting set of thoughts? Like, oh, I'm not going to get this. Oh, this is hard. Or I don't want to do this. Anybody have thoughts like that? Julia's like, she's totally raising her hand, right? All right, great. How many of you were able to just let go of that for a second and reconnect to your original idea by just checking in with your body? Yeah, it's okay. It's not like, remember the unicorns and the rainbows? It's not going to be unicorns and rainbows, but it might be just enough. And was it helpful for you to check in and remember what you wanted to do as you started to play? Was it helpful? Did it make the experience a little bit better? Some of you are nodding your head. Great. Did it make the output a little bit better than you expected? Yeah. All right. Okay, Good. So this is another useful one. Now, the way I use stop, I use it before I start to teach, to check in, to make sure I'm in the right mood to teach people, or whenever I'm going to give a talk, right? I always think, okay, what do I want out of this talk? What do I want out of this? Well, I want to help people, right? I'm always in the mindset as a teacher that my job as a teacher is to be helpful, right? And so if I'm not in the mood, or if I don't have the proper thinking or the right type of even embodied posture to be helpful, it doesn't mean that I judge myself, but I have to check in and say, if there's an opportunity to change this so that I can be more helpful, this might be the time to do it, right? So it's never judgmental, and it's little and it's incremental, right? But you know when this is really helpful? In my practices, when we've had like an hour and a half of rehearsal and people start to get frustrated, especially when we're playing something over and over and over again, we do the mindful stop. And my students know it. My orchestra students are used to it. I'll just say, hey, we might have done a body scan earlier, we do them every 20 to 30 minutes, but after about an hour and a half of frustrating, we're playing the same 8 measures again and again and again, we'll do mindful stop. And it is such a release for people to go, oh yeah. What we want here is to have a good rehearsal. And what is the best possible rehearsal we can have? What are the thoughts and attitudes and ideas that we have, right? So the magic here is like getting back to Yoda. What did Yoda do? He reminded Anakin to be mindful of what is going on so that he didn't do what? He didn't go forward and do something habitual or negative because his body was, sort of heightened and his thoughts were kind of out of control. So this is an easy one. Again, seems esoteric, but just remember, stop, take 3 deep breaths, observe your what? Body, emotions, and mind. Then proceed with intention, which is asking yourself, are these useful? Is this useful, right? What is my intention? And are these thoughts, postures, and emotions useful? And that's the mindful stop. It's another fun little exercise that you can work with. All right. Sorry, I went over a little bit, Sarah. We had the technical difficulties.
That was fine. This
Okay.
was really great. Thank
And
you.
then tomorrow we will work on being kind to ourselves. We're gonna learn a little self-compassion meditation, which is really, it's gonna be good for your soul. I promise, it'll be great. Have a great day. I'll see you all tomorrow.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.